What's up? It's Brad here at Click 98.9's Acoustic Lounge with Tegan and Sara. And they're about to perform for some listeners, but first I get to hang out with them. So, first question. How did you come to decide Tegan goes first on the name? In radio, they do this really weird thing where it's like a thing. Like, oh, my name goes first. No, my name goes first.
Right.
So I just figure I'm going to put that kind of pressure on you. So how did that come?
Well, growing up, actually, our friends and family said Sara and Tegan because I think it's easier to say, and you don't have to enunciate as much. And when we started playing music professionally, the first sort of pressing of our record, I guess, like you would say, back in the olden days for all the little kids listening out there, when we made our first CD, it was Sara and Tegan, and we noticed right away that people had trouble deciphering what we were saying, and there was a lot of other Sara McLaughlin, and et cetera. So anyway, we changed it to Tegan and Sara. And we always say if we could go back, we would just pick a band name, because it's kind of just, now feels strange that our name is Tegan and Sara, but we don't fight over it. We're fine with it, and to this day, our family still calls us Sara and Tegan, and then the band is Tegan and Sara. I guess it helps us distinguish between professional and private.
That's how you draw the line?
That's how we draw the line.
Oh, this must be a personal situation
if someone
right now.
walks up and says Tegan and Sara, I know that they're not my friend.
Good to know. I'll use this later when I see you in a bar. I'll be like, Sara, Tegan, how you doing? It'll be a whole thing. Speaking of pressing records, I've recently got really into kind of the creation of music. So what I would like to know is, just kind of paint the picture for us, because you're going to be in the studio all next year, right? 2015, no, maybe not the whole year. Maybe you're going to have some holidays and stuff. But you're going to be recording next year and then back to the road in 16. So as you go into the studio, paint the picture for me of what it's like. So you're going to go sit down. Let's talk about the writing process and the recording process a little bit.
Sure, yeah. A lot of times I think because of home studios and home recording, and just that we sort of grew up on those programs. A lot of times in the studio it can mean a lot of different things. For us, a lot of the initial songwriting and ideas happens at home in our. I mean, for me, I usually write in a closet because I like small spaces. Tegan writes in her billiard room. She's really into pool, so. Imagine if Tegan had a billiard room. That would be amazing. She just smokes cigars and drinks a lot of peaty scotch, and she just sort of comes up with the ideas there. No, we both sort of write at home, and it's very unglamorous. It's not like it's not sort of like I think a lot of people imagine like bands on the floor of the studio being with mic'd up and jamming out ideas, and that's always been sort of almost the opposite of the way we work, where there's a sort of solitary, lonely. Writing process. And once we sort of get about 80% of the way through a song, that's when we'll generally start to sit down with each other and add additional harmonies or ideas or give feedback on arrangement or just tell each other to give up. Don't do that. Don't focus on that one anymore, whatever it is. And then we'll go into the actual studio. So for us, it's like it's sort of a multi-layered process.
And, do you have anything to add from your billiard room over there?
I don't have a billiard room, but yes, like Sara, I like small spaces, and there's definitely an enormous amount of creative time that happens individually and then are independent of one another. So the days of being in a studio have passed with obviously the decrease in selling music. There's less, I don't want to say that people don't care about the records as much anymore, but I feel like there's less focus on like going into the studio and creating a masterpiece, which we still want to do, but I think the songwriting is actually the most important part, and that really does happen at home, in my pajamas.
Do you think it's because the reason that's not cool anymore is because
people take music for free and don't care or appreciate art anymore? Yeah, I do.
Well, I was going to say, not only that, but the people who are big right now, they can't do it. They can't go into a studio and create a masterpiece because they've grown up on... And I'm obviously speaking in generalities here, no one specific, but some of these people have grown up on Pro Tools or Ableton or something like that.
Maybe, but I don't think that the digital element of music is what hurt the industry. Like, I think actually it's allowed us, certainly for us, it's allowed us to be more creative because we're able to record our own songs. We track 80 different instrument ideas and melody ideas and harmonies, and we're able to really create a blueprint. I just think that the actual architecture, the building of a song still happens in a studio. I just think that the creative process can happen at home, which is actually great because it's cost effective. We
also
can make really
great
records.
You're going to spend, $800 a day sitting in a studio to write when you could do it at home.
And you can do it in the privacy of your own misery.
And you also can too, what you make a really good point. Back in the day, studio time was so expensive. You were recording onto tape, and you had to be sort of an outrageously good musician because you were going to waste money. But it's so funny that you say that. I was watching a documentary last night, a Dave Grohl documentary.
Sound City.
And well, it wasn't Sound City.
okay.
It was I guess he's made a bunch of different documentaries, but this one was focusing on Washington D.C. because he's a D.C. He grew up in the D.C. area, and at one point, Ian MacKaye from Fugazi, Minor Threat, was talking about how he grew up listening to all of this music, and it just seemed insane that you would be a musician if you weren't like Jimi Hendrix or something. Like if you didn't have like if you didn't have an insane skill level, you just didn't make music. And the idea that you could be in a punk rock band and not necessarily be an expert at your instrument was sort of like a revolution. And for us, we weren't necessarily prodigious by any stretch of the imagination. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people who heard our original music, our first songs were like, well, I hope those girls know how to read. Like, I hope they're going to get into school. Like, we weren't necessarily amazing, but what digital technology has allowed us to do is learn and develop and also innovate. Like for us, I never learned to play the drums, but I know how to program drums.
Right.
I know how to make a drum beat that makes sense to my mind, and so I'm like a total advocate of digital recording for kids because I think it allows them to go further than they would if they were,
Right. Yeah, it's much easier to get discouraged if they have to go spend $7,000 on studio time or something
absolutely.
like that.
Yeah,
That's
or
true.
you might get turned away. Like I had a guitar teacher who I asked him in my first lesson, I was like, can you teach me this Smashing Pumpkins song? And he didn't know how to do it, and so I just gave up and stopped going to guitar lessons, and in a weird way, I went...
bleak story.
It was a bleak moment when he couldn't teach me Stumbleina by Smashing Pumpkins, but I do think that it allowed me, to go home and I'm going to teach myself. I'm going to learn these programs. I'm going to show myself how to do these things, and that's really cool.
It's interesting that you point out the Dave Grohl thing because he cuts to 2-inch tape today. Like
Yeah.
still,
I
but
mean,
when
he's
you have
holding it
millions
down.
of dollars
Yeah.
and you own a board that it cuts the tape, it's a whole different thing. So do you think writing separately helps you out in the long run? Because I have someone at work that I'll come up with an idea, she'll come up with an idea on her own, and when we come together, that idea is awesome. But individually, they were just okay. They were just pretty good ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Sarah and I are under any illusion that we don't need each other. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that we stand out because we are with each other. I think we may, if we had gone our own independent ways and had careers separate from one another, or if Sarah wanted to be a lawyer and I had followed music, I think I would have developed a whole different, sound, obviously. But I think we're very aware of how much our collaborative songs and our collaborative moments are what really make us stand out from the pack. And I think that writing separately allows us to try new things and be brave and bold without an audience, but then we bring it to each other to increase the kind of cool factor. I think there's something about us collaborating that makes us stand out. So, but I do think the process of working individually allows us to try things we wouldn't if we were sitting staring at each
Right.
other. And we haven't written a ton in person anyway, but when we did, it wasn't that we didn't get along or that I didn't like the songs. I just was bored. Like, it's boring watching someone write a song because it takes time. It takes,
And it's a
I
personal
actually
thing.
hadn't written any songs in a long time, and I wrote a song this week, and it took 3 days. Like, that's boring to watch. Like, nobody wants to see that.
It's true. I can sometimes I'm around people's cats or their babies, and at first I'm like, this is the most exciting thing I've ever seen. This is like new life, or like look at this baby's face, and then I'm like, I need to go check my phone. I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm hungry, and that's like a baby. That's a whole new human being, and I have like a half an hour attention span.
I get it. So 20 years you guys have been doing this together?
I mean, we started writing songs when we were
15?
15, and we're 18 now, so it's only been 3 years.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You got on your
We're
way to
so good for only having done it for 3 years.
I mean,
We're really we are a success story.
overnight success.
Yeah.
Even better than American Idol.
Yeah.
On your way to teganandsara.com, stop by click989.com. I'm Brad.